Hi, this is Jeff Mesnick with Envisions. We are here today with Ian Sheridan of Vestigo Ventures. Excited to have you here today. I understand that you've been in the retirement industry for quite some time. I wonder if you could share a little bit of your background.
Sure, Jeff. Glad to be here with you today. So I've spent my whole career in financial services in the space between asset management and technology. I started out working my way through college on the New York Stock Exchange as a clerk.
Yep.
Was involved early on in Wall Street, and then moved on into the group benefit space, which we'll come back to why it's relevant today in fintech.
Yeah.
And then a big chunk of my time in the 401k space back in the early days when it was still a balanced forward world. In
Yep.
fact, I was part of a team at UPI, which became a census that created the first no action letter to the SEC to create a daily valuation 401k, trade it daily and take fees
Wow.
and set up the business. So I've been around it a long time. In the early days of online advice, now officially called Robo. I have some patents along the way and developed some mobile enrollment devices and some things around encryption and financial statements. But it's been a great journey to be on it, and even more now at this juncture in my career to be on the other side to invest in entrepreneurs who are rethinking financial services really from the ground up. So it's an exciting time to be on this side of it now.
Great. So, being at that kind of the venture world, you're seeing probably a lot of really exciting new fintech startups approach. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit of what you've seen there and how they've kind of affected the whole gig economy and everything else.
Yeah, so at Vestigo, we think across a wide spectrum of fintech, from the structured systems from Wall Street to Main Street, operation solutions, worksite marketing, the gig economy, and personal wealth. And so we're seeing exciting change across that whole spectrum. Particularly in around the 401k space, we're seeing insurance and asset management rethinking worksite. And we'll start with some of the issues, the friction points. So student debt being one of the largest issues right now for new entrants into the workforce. We have, in 2017, there were 44 million students with a total indebtedness of $1.4 trillion. By 2027, it's expected to be 75 million students with $3 trillion of debt.
Wow.
So think of the 401k provider now trying to talk to that new employee who's got debt, trying to engage them in the system. And so we're seeing an entire new perspective as it relates to the work site. So back in the day, you would have an insurance agent or a benefits consultant offer a 401k, some group benefits, try to extend that with some individual products and services. Today, the asset management insurance world is rethinking that with technology in mind. So starting with student loans as an example, we have just invested in a company called Student Loan Genius, which will act as a benefits facilitator of student loans. So employers are now creating this as a benefit where
Nice.
they'll enroll students or employees who have debt into the program. They'll pay some level of that debt, and this technology platform enables the payment process to occur effectively and efficient across multiple institutions who are holding those loans. So now you see a new benefit forming. Back in the day of 401k, we were still educating employers that there was this new savings vehicle.
Right.
Now we're seeing employers quickly understand that to attract and retain employees, they need to help them with this debt. And so now this whole formation around worksite, from debt to getting them into the 401k to addressing other savings and financial needs are starting to occur, which is exciting. In the early days of 401k, it was get employees enrolled, getting them to save at a proper rate.
Mm-hmm.
It was about accumulation, and then it got into asset allocation, and now we have online advice. But really, providers of these products were not really engaged with the employee base beyond enrollment and sending that financial statement. And so we're seeing a shift now occur that from the institution to the employer coming together around how do we provide more holistic planning solutions for that employee. And so that's a big change now. That's starting to occur. The lack of planning across the United States is actually a big issue
Right.
as it relates to wealth management. And 60% of workers have saved less than $25,000. We all hear the stat of the average American, if they got hit with a $400 debt issue quickly or a crisis issue, they would have a challenge in regards to meeting that debt.
Right. So, and based on that fact, you actually have new software that you guys have been spending time with that helps people understand how to plan for those instances. Is that correct?
So yeah, as we look across the areas that we invest in, one area in personal wealth, one of our first investments actually was Life Yield,
Mm-hmm.
that addresses the issue. If we think of the gig economy, we're now seeing employees in motion at a greater level than ever before, right? So offline, I shared with you, my dad was a Bell Labs engineer, one company
Right.
across his entire career. I've worked for several companies in my career. I expect my children will work for potentially 14 to 15 companies in their career if I believe the statistics, and certainly we're seeing that in the trend.
Yep.
So what does that mean is that the average American now has a 401k plan, multiple IRAs, multiple brokerage accounts. And so how do you optimize that portfolio? When Vestigo looked at the robo-advising space as an example, back then we called it advice, but
Right.
robo-advice, so we did a deep analysis there. And what we saw were, in the early stages, very myopic approaches to how that was being addressed, right? Looking at one account at a time. And so that led us to, and understanding their customer acquisition costs, led us to think of a thesis a little bit differently around what is the next wave of alpha as you think about personal wealth. Life Yield came on our radar as a result of that conversation. They deal with portfolio optimization across multiple accounts and tax, as an example. We'll continue in the worksite marketing with Student Loan Genius, as I mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And we'll see more. We're seeing more and more of those opportunities coming to Vestigo as entrepreneurs are understanding that this gig economy and the way employers are thinking about attracting and retaining employees is radically changed. And so new benefit platform as a service are being created with these worksite solutions in very unique and different ways.
So, and it's changed because as as you and I talked earlier, they used to bring in these big computers and ship them and then kind of go through it one by one. But now it seems like, you know, for life planning and life moments, you've got this great new application readily available to you.
You do, and it's starting earlier than ever before, right?
Right.
We used to spend millions of dollars in books and materials and enrollment materials, and now we're seeing applications being created at mobile applications that are designed to engage financial literacy at the family level, right? So we're seeing tools that back in the day it was, for me, a passbook savings book. Work, do some chores, and your father or mother would take you to the bank. You made the deposit.
Right.
Now the tools are designed electronically, digitally, with behavioral methodologies engaged in that conversation. So now the parent and the child can engage in much more meaningful conversation. Institutions obviously very interested in this because if we can start the next generation on a financial path of understanding financial literacy, if you will, then they're going to ultimately become better customers. And so that's a whole area of early financial literacy that we're seeing in the ecosystem to the later stage full employee benefits that I described to you.
That's been great. Well, thank you very much for the time. This has been excellent. It seems like you've been there from bricks to chips and provide a lot of great insights and have a lot of great investments that you've been looking at, and can't wait to hear more about it.
All right. Excellent. So thanks so much, Jeff. Appreciate the time today.
Thank you. Take care.
All right.